Okay, welcome to this video on using equations to help us solve word problems. Now if you'll remember from a previous video, we've already looked at converting words to algebraic expressions. So here's an example we might have seen before. Double a number plus 3. So we can convert that to the expression 2n plus 3. Because this means double a number, and then we're adding 3 to it. Double a number plus 3. Now, since equations are just two equal expressions, we can do the same thing with equations. So we have a similar expression, double a number plus 3, but this time I'm telling you what it's equal to. So this time, double a number plus 3 means equals 13. So we've converted these words to an equation this time. And once we have an equation, we now know we can solve the equation. So I can use opposite operations, subtract 3 from both sides, divide by 2, and we now know that number had to be 5. When we're just given the expression, remember, it could have been any number. It could have been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But once I tell you what it's equal to and we have the equation, we can solve for that number. So we can use equations to help solve different word problems. It often comes in very handy. So here's an example. How old am I if half my age reduced by 10 is 8? So you could sit there and just think about it and kind of work backwards. Or we can now use what we know about equations and solving equations to help us answer this question. So all the word problems we do today are going to have 4 steps. Step number 1 is define a variable. There's always something in the question that you don't know that you're trying to find out. That's going to be what your variable is, because variables are things that we don't know and want to know. So what in this question don't we know, but we want to know? Well, that would be the age, how old they are. So let's let A represent the age. So now we have a variable, A stands for age. Step number 2 is we're going to use what we know about taking words and putting them in expressions and equations to help us and use this variable. So how old am I if half my age reduced by 10 is 8? So half the age means the age divided by 2. So there's the half my age part. Reduced by 10 means we're then going to subtract 10 from it, and is equals to 8. So here's an equation that takes our question, and now we have it in nice mathematical form. A divided by 2 minus 10 equals 8. Once we've done that, we can solve the equation for A, and we'll know what the age is. So A divided by 2 minus 10 equals 8. So I'm going to add 10 to both sides. So A divided by 2 equals 18. Then I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. And we get A is equal to 36. So now we know what A is, but A stands for age, so we know the age of the person in the question. So step 4, write a therefore statement. So remember the 3 dots like this stands for therefore the age is 36. And we've used solving equations to answer the original question. And we can always check if your age is 36, half of it is 18, reduce that by 10, and you get 8. So we know we're right. Okay, let's try another example together. So how long will it take you to make $99 if you earn $5.50 per hour? One possible way of solving this is by using equations. So we can use our 4-step process. Step 1, define a variable. So always think, what am I trying to find in this question? What do I want to know? How long will it take you? We want to know the number of hours. So let's let H represent hours. Okay? So H stands for the hours in this, which is what we're trying to figure out, how many hours it would take us to make $99. So let's write an equation. So this one's a little bit different. It doesn't give us the words exactly, but we need to use what we know about money and wages. If you earn $5.50 per hour and you worked 3 hours, you would do $5.50 times 3 to figure out how much money you worked. But in this case, we don't know the number of hours we're working. So if you take your money per hour, multiply it by the number of hours, it will tell you how much money you make, which in this case is $99. So $5.50 an hour times the number of hours we work, which we don't know, will give us our $99 that we make. So now that we have the equation, remember this is the hard step, coming up with the equation. Once you have the equation, we can just solve it. So we have 550 times h equals 99. So we want to get the h alone, so we're going to divide by 550, and that means we're going to divide that side by 550, and we get 18. So now we can go back and answer the original question. How long will it take? Well, h is 18, h is the number of hours, so therefore it will take 18 hours to earn $99. And there we go. Alright, hope you've had a chance to try this. So find two consecutive numbers whose sum is 77. This is a little bit harder of a question. Hopefully you watched the video on writing algebraic expressions where we talked about consecutive numbers. So step 1, define the variable. In this case, we're looking for two numbers, right? Two consecutive numbers. So do we define two variables? Well, we already said that our equations are only allowed to have one variable, one letter in them. So how can we do that? If you think back to that algebraic expressions video, we said that the consecutive numbers, the one that really matters is the first one. Whatever the first number is, the second one's already set. It has to be the one after it. So we're going to let n represent the first number. Because if we know the first number, then we know the second number. So the second number is really dependent on the first number. So step 2 is write an equation. So if n is our first number, what would our second number be? Remember, it's 1 after it, so it would be that number plus 1, n plus 1. So here's our two consecutive numbers, n and n plus 1. And we know that they're sum, so when we add them together, we get 77. So we've written our equation. Step 3, we want to solve our equation. Now since we have two variables here, we've got to combine like terms first. So n plus n becomes 2n. So 2n plus 1 equals 77. Subtract 1, 2n equals 76. And then we can divide by 2. So we get that n is equal to 38. So now we've answered the question. What are two consecutive numbers that add up to 77? Well, it would be 38, which is the first number, so the second one would be 39. So therefore, the two numbers are 38 and 39. And we can check that when we add these together, 38 plus 39, we do get 77, just like we were supposed to.